who is Blair without the money, without the career, without the label, without the success and the achievements? And I didn't know. I couldn't tell you who I was.
Blair Jones has spent 15 years in health, nutrition, and fitness, built a business with over 70 locations, and walked away from all of it. Today, she's helping women stop punishing their bodies and actually come home to themselves.
I checked all the dreams off the dream board. And so then I went and had a baby, and then I had another baby, and then I was lost, super lost. I was very insecure. I thought that if I looked a certain way, I'd fit in or I'd be loved.
It sounds like a lot of the things you were doing, running all those businesses or going to the gym, might have come from more of a place of like external validation. Then you kind of made this shift to realizing, hey, I want to feel internal validation.
Absolutely. And once I found that and really actually lived by that, my whole life changed.
Is there something that you felt like you grew up believing that you would never pass on to your kids?
If I did well, then I was worthy of love. I just equated success to equaling love, that achievement equaled love. And I had asked my mom, "Are you proud of me?" And she stormed out of the house. She was outside pissed. And in years of therapy, now it's the best thing that she ever did that day.
All right. Welcome back to the Inspired Idiot Show. Welcome to the show, Blair Jones. I have not been this excited about an interview for a while. So welcome. I'm so excited. I feel like it was actually very challenging for me to narrow down questions because in just looking at all your content, there was so many things that I feel like I could talk to you about. But I guess we'll start here. I know that you've built a business and an audience around helping women optimize their bodies and their hormones. But I want to hear it from you. If you had to explain to like a sixth grader what you do, what would you say?
Yes. So I really support women specifically who are in postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause, get their zest for life back, their spark back, their moxie back, their swag back, primarily through looking at what's happening at the root cause in their metabolic and hormonal health that potentially the rest of the population isn't looking at because they're just telling them that they need to eat more protein and walk 10,000 steps and shop on the outside of the aisle. However, when those things aren't working and someone isn't listening to maybe there might be something else at the root, that's where I really come into play and really listen to where you're at in your season and see what we can do from a holistic functional lens, because I work with a holistic doctor and practitioner, and she is very conservative on medication, and we primarily only work with supplementation, and then we combat that with lifestyle and nutrition, and then we also end it with the magic stick of peptides, but only done uniquely through your bio-individual body, meaning your perfect blueprint. So everything's customized.
Nice. Wow. So do you feel like you identify with the word coach, consultant, creator? Do any of those kind of spark for you, or are you kind of just your own blend of all of them?
I think all, because I mean, I walked the journey. I lived the journey. I've been in health, nutrition, and fitness for 15 years. And then this was birthed out of my own reclamation of myself. And I always joke, like you teach the thing you're here most to learn. And so I was like, it's funny that I was so lost in the world, and coming back to myself and my body then led me to, I would say, my becoming of this next season of my life of what I'm doing now. So it's an iteration of what I've done through coaching and consulting through health and nutrition, primarily through nutrition, and then bringing in these new pieces that just brought me home to myself. And then I get to share this with women, like in their, I had a girl, I was just right before you, I was on with a woman who cried. Like, I feel like somebody's listening to me. I found it. I found the thing of someone putting all the pieces together for me and one person serving me with that. And I was like, what an honor to serve people versus someone seeking, I need something. And I'm like, oh, what an honor to serve you and support you in your journey. And so a reframe of what I do versus like, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to listen to what's going on and support you feeling better.
Yeah, I can see how that would be deeply fulfilling, especially like you said, you kind of walk that path yourself. And I saw on one of your posts, you said that it took 13 years to build what your business is today. So if you
Yes.
had to kind of share that story of that, the 13 years of your business becoming what it is today, how would
Mhm.
you tell that story?
So in 2013, I started a nutrition business. And so I supported people with health and nutrition. I opened a brick and mortar building. And so I served protein smoothies and herbal teas to people in a very small town in Wisconsin where they're like 50 years behind the rest of the world. And I just started helping people get healthy. And before that, I was a collegiate athlete. So I was playing sports in college overseas, and I didn't know where to go. And then I lost 40 pounds, and then I was like, I want to help more people lose weight. So this is where the 15 years kind of came in. And then I've been doing that, and I kind of created the pinnacle. So in 13 years, I built a very successful business. And so we have over 70 locations. And I was really, really bored. Like I had I did it. I checked all the dreams off the dream board. And so then I went and had a baby, and then I had another baby, and then I was lost, super lost, because I was like, I don't ever want to go back and do what I did to get here. I don't ever want to go back to that because I was a fucking lot. And I don't think I have the capacity for that now, being a wife and 2 kids. And I necessarily don't want to do that because I already fucking did it. And so I didn't know who I was. So I didn't really know how to identify myself because I wasn't necessarily a boss babe, like fucking stick it to the man. I'm going to go make my own money. Like I proved, I don't have anything to prove. I don't have anything else I don't have to prove it. Yet I didn't fully identify with mom because my joke is I always ruined every sourdough starter that I ever made. And I didn't look good in a frolicky sundress. And so I was like, I don't really identify with mom, but I don't identify with boss babe. But I was like, but who am I? And so I had to really peel back all the layers, like who is Blair without the money, without the career, without the label, without the success and the achievements? And I didn't know. I couldn't tell you who I was. I didn't know my interests. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what felt good. I didn't know what tasted. I had no clue because I was so in the fucking matrix of success and the ladder and image and proving and then I was like, but now what? And so I had to kind of peel everything back and go inward. And I had to unbecome a lot of things. And in the process of the actual becoming of knowing who I am, it then led me down to the path of what is now the program that I've created because I had to go back to how do I take care of myself through nutrition, but not for an self-absorbed way that I had used to do it in my 20s, but from a self-fulfilling way of I actually want my inside to match my outside. I've always been pretty fit, but I was very insecure. I did it for selfish reasons. I thought that if I looked a certain way, I'd fit in or I'd be loved. I never, and they're like, but you just look so confident. I'm like, my body was a shield to give myself an imagery that I was that person, but that's not actually how I felt. And so I was like, all masks off. And I was like, I care more about who I am than how I look. I care about more about meeting myself than what I've ever achieved. And this then birthed that. And through hormones and through a bun panel and through peptides and through nutrition, it kind of was all of these pieces that I brought back to myself that really brought me all the way online. And I was like, once I found myself, every part of myself, like I'd birth 2 babies, I'm 37. I'm like, I will never leave you again. I love you with my whole soul. I will never abandon you again. And also, I will never not be all of you. So like this reclamation online has been my own therapy of like, I I get to speak with my own fucking truth because it's all been fragmented or positioned so I would appear a certain way instead of just being who I am and allowing that to be the leading front and everything else is a result of that. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, it sounds like you kind of had, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you kind of had a pivotal moment or a pivotal time after having your 2 kids where maybe you realized that a lot of the things you were doing, whether it was like running all those businesses or your motivation for going to the gym, might have come from more of a place of like external validation. Then you kind of made this shift to realizing, hey, I want to feel internal validation and have everything I do come from that.
Absolutely. And once I found that and really actually lived by that, my whole life changed. That it's like, I no longer need your approval if how I look, how I feel, what I create, what I make, what I do, because I'm so proud of it. And again, not is it is so it's a fine line because none of it is from self. It's from like I am so self-knowing. I'm so worthy of being abundantly happy, joyful, prosperous in the best marriage because in my world, it's my birthright to feel so fucking good, not from vain, but from just grounded empowerment within myself. Like, I still have bad days. I still have not grit, but it's with such tenderness that I have, I would say, character building days is what I call them, that I approach them. And so it's just with such tenderness versus such frustration or loneliness or confusion where I felt before.
Yeah. Character building days. I use that a lot too. And I actually am going to come back and touch on that later because I've noticed we have that in common in that we're very intentional with the words that we use. And I've seen some of your videos around that. Uh, but I wanted to ask you about the content creation side of your business as well, because I know on Instagram you have over 73,000 followers. And I'm curious if that audience grew as a result of the business growing, or do you feel like the audience kind of happened first and then also helped grow the business?
I think it might be I never really knew what I was doing on social media. So it was like in the beginning, it was kind of like an online diary that was fun for me. I really love writing and being in depth. And there's very much a part of me that I was like, I love painting the poetic arc of the tragedy and then the arc to the lesson and the really understand. And again, it's been like my public diary that I would share. And when I started in this becoming of my true, I would say the most authentic sometimes can be overused, but my version of my own truest authentic self that I've ever known. And she started coming online in the beginning. I lost so many followers. It was like 50,000, 40,000, kept going down. And then it was like, oh, my husband calls it. He's like, you put smoke in the ground and all the things come out. He's like, so once you smoke them out and you know see who stays. And he's like, but you want to build from your own solid foundation. And from there, I've never ran an ad. I don't know how to create. And it's just been legitimate, authentic, raw content that's I would say I try to minimally cut. It's a lot of just me riffing. And it's just been my, like, I get to let me say the things that people are afraid to say. And I actually don't give a shit anymore, not to offend someone or hurt somebody. But I want to speak my truth because for so long I haven't. It was crazy because 3 years ago I went to the dentist and he's like, you have fractured teeth. He's like, from gritting, he's like, you don't grind your teeth. Because we'd be able to tell. He's like, but you literally have bit your tongue. I was at a holistic dentist, and he goes, from literally biting your jaw down so hard, from biting your tongue. And I was like, he's like, it's not just a phrase. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? I'm too loud. I say too much. That's inappropriate. And people even say a comment to me on social media and like, I really love your content, but sometimes you really got to tone it down. I was like, respectfully for my own self love and respect, I don't want to. And it's not to offend you. This is for my own reclamation. Everything that I'm doing in this season is for nobody but myself. And again, not from a selfish way. It's because I can't even it's like this one's for me. I get to prove to myself that I can do this, that I'm fucking worthy, that I can create it. And not from, again, a selfish way. It's from, because I did it for all the wrong reasons before to prove, to show, to get validated, have what XYZ thing. And I was like, but have I ever created it from a heart-led, heart-centered space? And the answer is maybe, kind of, in ways, but not truly, not that at the forefront. And that is my integrity and North Star that I really get to internalize and check. And when I create content, it's literally created, cut out. It's not saved, it's not planned, it's not scheduled. And again, it's just because I never knew what it was like to be in vibration or energy. I would hear people talk about this and I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking in it. I hit the pocket. I'm in the channel. I hit the frequency. And I work every day to be in that frequency of joy and love and just being willing to put myself out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it reminds me of I heard a phrase once that the person that you are best equipped to help is the person who is kind of who you used to be. So I think when you find that rhythm in what you're doing, where you find the reason that you're doing it for you, and you kind of give yourself permission to like fully show up that way, for sure, there's going to be people that are like, I don't like this about you, or like, I like this, but I don't like this. And you kind of have to just get to a place of acceptance where you're like, that's cool. I might not be for you then, but I have to fully show up for me because that's going to allow me to fully show up for the people that I'm most meant to help.
For sure. Yeah, I think the best compliment I've ever gotten is like, "You're exactly the way that I envisioned you when I see you online. You fucking
Mhm.
swear, you say the shits, you're funny, you're sassy." And that's the best compliment because now I know I'm in integrity.
Mhm.
I'm the same person. I'm in authentic, I'm in resonance, of who I'm being there and who I'm being in my life. And that's really what I wanted. Like I'm the same person on either side.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That was actually one of the things that like immediately stood out to me in your content because I think I am this way a little bit as well, is that you are kind of willing to like lovingly call people out when their actions don't match who they say they want to be. So I was
Mhm.
curious for you when it comes to like working with clients or even just people online, do you find that people often get offended by that?
Think my experience has been in my clientele, that's actually what they're seeking.
Mhm.
They're seeking to be called out. They're seeking to kind of be pressed to the line. And so my style or the way in which I do it, that's what they want, you know? And so if I'm like, hey Kelsey, like this isn't what you fucking said you wanted. Like let's have the conversation in a loving way. And I think I've learned over the years, like I'm not here for confrontation, but I'm here to hold what you desired and have a conversation. And so there are things even online that I'm like, this one's going to be a little edgy. And they go, but is it in integrity? And I say, yeah, okay, here we go. This is my commitment to myself that I, in my own practice, that, and there are some days I'm like, I just don't want confrontation. And I've just rewired. I was like, I'm open to conversation and I'm open to the conversation. If I'm not trying to make somebody wrong, I'm not trying to offend people. My opinion may offend people. My position or stance might because they disagree, but I'm not wrong. I'm not a terrible person. It doesn't mean I'm less than. It doesn't mean my opinion is unworthy, right? Because I'm not here to position myself as better than. I'm not just sharing my experience or my opinion or my side or the stance that I take. Whether you agree or disagree, that's no problem.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's I completely resonate with that. It's that it's like you're if I think like the way I think of social media content is that when you are drawn to sharing your message, you're drawn to putting out content, it kind of does force you to get clear on like what hills you're willing to stand on because
Yes.
you know sometimes that you're like, "Oh, this one is going to ruffle some feathers," or like there are going to be some people that are pissed off at me saying this, but if you feel like what you're saying is coming out of integrity and you have conviction in it and you're like I'm open to having conversations about this, putting out content kind of makes you get clear on what those messages are for you.
Oh yeah, and quick. I mean, it's quick. I mean, in the first like when I came out, it was like a cannon and I was just so like a thoroughbred on the loose, like I'm free, here I am, da 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 da. And people were like, "Is she having a psychological breakdown? Are you feeling okay?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I've never felt better." And I get that it was a little polarizing because it was confusing because no one had I'd never shown this side, which that was just feedback for me that I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at how much you've been playing small. Look at how much you were unwilling to ruffle feathers or create a wave or expose this hill that you're willing to die on because you didn't want to be have the conversation. Or what if they see the hill that you're willing to die on, they no longer resonate or want to be your friend?" And I was like, oh, those are a lot of internal conversations. And then it's the cliche line of, I'd rather be loved for who I am than who I pretended to be. And
Mhm.
I that's the smoke in the ground my husband was talking about. He's like, you played it safe and you're very likable and you're charismatic. And when you don't have opinions, it's easy to be everybody's friend. Versus, I didn't want to just be in the mix. I wanted to be in leading my own life. And for that, I had to be willing to share the things people are unwilling to share, say the things that people are unwilling to talk about, but everybody's thinking, say the things that people want to say, but are unwilling or not yet able to. So let me be the voice for the voiceless. Let me say the things for the women who are in their journey, but they're like, fuck yeah, finally we have somebody, or you put words in my mouth for me. And so it's again, let me lead the way, be the example for all the other people and all the other things and all the other teachers and messengers and influencers before me that were willing to do that, that gave me permission. And all I am is just another permission slip for another permission slip to be handed out.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is seeing a post from somebody explaining something that you've thought 100 times, and you see somebody put it out there, and it can almost feel like they're giving you permission to believe what you already believe.
And relief. I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. Connection, resonance, relatability. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about your business, because I noticed like a lot of the creators that I admire today are growing private communities. And I saw in one of your posts that you launched a membership community and brought in, I think it was around 40 members in the first 90 days. So can you kind of walk me through like what specifically you did for that to happen?
Yes. So I created a beta group in the beginning to really start to test what I was doing. And so it was really ignorance on fire. Like, I have a really good idea, but I have to be surrendered because once you fucking launch this thing, now it really has a life and its energy of its own. And I get to be just the um usher. What is it? Like I'm trying to think of people who do the sheep, the
Like Shepherd?
shepherd, that's the word. I get to be the shepherd of the steward of this thing that now is out there and what it wants to be created and become. And so I had a very good idea and I brought in a large group of women into a 8-week beta group. And I started to test a lot of these things from the 13 years I've had prior of that I've done up until this point, that then I started was like, okay, I really want to narrow in on, and it was specifically around macros. And so I was like, okay, but every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry does macros, but what's the unique difference of how we're going to do this? And so I had to be like, all right, well, why would someone come to me versus going to ChatGPT or MyFitnessPal? And so I started to develop an app. And so the beta group came in and helped me really work all the kinks inside of the app that I was developing, where I had a universal place, because I was like, if I am my best avatar, I don't want 10 things in 10 different places. I want the communication, I want the workouts, I want the community, I want every feature to be inside of an app, but I don't want to be overwhelmed, because the second thing that I always do is there's too many fucking features and I don't use half of them. So I'm overpaying and underusing for something that I just need the basics in. So I started developing this and bringing women through. And I really knew it when I started seeing people lose 10, 20. And now we have a girl down 23 pounds that came from the beta group, and really inserting pillars and some unique frames that I've created to help pair some foods to have lower insulin spikes within your day, have better energy. And then the final piece was the body. How am I bringing mind, body, and spirit together? Because people want the body, but more so they're really desired when I ask everybody, okay, you want to lose 20 pounds, right? But when you lose the 20 pounds, tell me who you are in 6 months from now, 20 pounds down. And the first thing they fucking say, I'm more confident. I feel better. I have a more connection with my husband, right? It's like, okay, great. So if we're only attached to the body, then we're never going to actually get there because it's fucking frustrating. But if we're attached to who we become in the process of that woman that gets to become, who does she need to become? Well, we need to change our behaviors, because by the end of the 20 pounds, you're going to be very different person. And your body is the physical representation of the behaviors that you've changed for the person that you become, who now is physically representative of 20 pounds down. And so it's, again, this is the evolution. The program is called Evolved Her, the person we're evolving, becoming in this season of our life, because we keep trying to do what used to work, what isn't doing now, because what got us here won't get us there. And so I started developing that. And then once I had the concept of the framework of the app and the community, I was like, oh my God, now you put in peptides, now you put in blood and hormone panels, and you're creating a unique frame of literally looking at women, how they metabolize protein, fats, and carbohydrates based upon their blood work. Now it's precision macros, it's not generic. Now I can give you specialized supplementation, not because you fucking saw Shilajit online is cool, but because it's actually what your body's needing because you're in adrenal fatigue or you
Mhm.
have low progesterone and you didn't know it. And then you put in peptides where it's going to help with insulin resistance, and they don't even look at that inside of a regular panel. And then that's when I really started to see it. I was like, this is so much beyond than just a normal framework of logging your food, of working out, getting your fucking 10,000 steps in, of what everybody else says. And then the final piece is the community where I can bring in my husband is masterful at inner child work, remembering, supporting high achieving women who have created such epic shit in their life. Now they're mothers and they're incredible wives and they don't know who they are. And getting them moving, dancing. And he comes and brings in movement and play. And if they haven't laughed, they haven't danced, they feel awkward in their own body. And so, how do you become, if you're going to fucking be 20 pounds down in this confident, fucking sexy red dress, you better know how to move in it in a body that you don't feel safe in. So, we gotta learn how to connect with her. So, again, I wanted to bring in elements that wasn't just physical, but also metaphysical and spiritual. I mean, in their own way, to bring I call it their spark back, their zest for life, to just turn up the volume of who they are. So then they can bring their whole ass, just not half their ass into every room.
It's interesting that you bring up play because I think that that's such a it's such a unfortunate thing that as we grow older, people kind of forget how to play, and it's something that I've started like trying to reinsert back into my life in the same way that I prioritize work or I prioritize going to the gym. I'm like, well, what if I just started prioritizing play and like just remembering what things I like to do purely for the enjoyment of it? I feel like as we get older and we take on more responsibilities and we have kids and we build businesses, that just completely falls off as a priority. And then when somebody says, like, what do you like to do for fun? Or like, what do you do just because it's joyful? A lot of people have to really like think back to when they last did that. We just completely stop prioritizing play. So it's no
Mhm.
wonder then why people can't even tell you like what they love or what their passions are.
100%. And when someone said that, I was like, I'm not, it's another thing on my to do list that probably won't happen. That's something that I should do. But again, once you start figuring out what's happening at the root, what's the root cause of your low energy, of your low libido, just feeling uncomfortable in your own, then once you figure out the root, then how do we reset that? How do we reset your metabolism? How do we reset your programming around food or what we're supposed to look like? And then you start to fucking feel better. Well, the chances are you actually being open to playing increases tenfold. And I feel like so many people have done a lot of the forgiveness work and the inner child work and calling your mom and saying, I'm sorry, and writing the letter. And like, you're laughing. It's like, yeah, we've done this and being mindful of our language. And sometimes it's finally like, I think we should just stop reading the self help books and turn on your favorite playlist. And they're like, oh my God, thank you for giving me permission. It's like, you should probably go listen to Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or Nickelback and just go rage today. And people are like, that's play. And they forget. And it's like, okay, no more fucking Blues Clues inside the car. It's Nickelback and Fall Out Boy and Sum 41. And we get to, yes. And they're like, oh, it's the best. They love mom in the car. And I was like, and again, because you're now in the act, I'm actively working out. I'm actively pursuing feeling better. Oh my God, now I'm embodying it instead of just another fucking to-do list. Cause I was like, play, like, do I need to take a painting class? It sounds terrible. I don't
Mhm.
really want to go to a cooking class. Like I was like, that sounds exhausting. I was like, but someone gives me permission to fucking rage, like talk to me, and then somehow this is how the women that are attracted. So here we are.
It's interesting that I imagine a lot of people do kind of almost need permission to like put themselves first and like rediscover what they love. And it sometimes takes like, somebody like you, like a coach or something, kind of assigning that to them for them to feel like okay to discover it. Because otherwise, it doesn't feel like a priority. Do you find that? Because I imagine that probably comes from a place of like people seeking external validation rather than internal validation. Do you find that that's something that you work through with a lot of your clients?
Yeah, I think I want it to be their idea of what's fun and play for them. Or like, I want them to arrive there. Like, I just got a message the other day that she was having a shitty day. And she was just like, this is usually the route I go. And then she chose to say, I'm having a character building day. This is working for me. And she's like, I fucking got this. And she turned out Fall Out Boy because she's like, I had a total Blair moment. And I think, again, it's just, I want people to have the tools available, and then they see someone in osmosis or through example, and then they find it through their own way versus me being like, okay, Kelsey, this week, your fucking job is to go to a painting class. And she's like, okay, well, I did it because I had to, versus I actually take things away from people. The majority of the women I work with, you can work out a maximum of 2 times this week. You are allowed to only walk for the rest of that. And what happens is their spaciousness opens up. They feel, you can literally watch the weight come off of their body because they feel relieved versus another thing being assigned. I'm like, actually, I'm going to take away what you're trying to fill it with just another thing or just another task of what we should do. Like, or what if we just fucking stop doing it and can yield the same result or fucking better, right? A lot of the women, you get to work out 2 days this week. What happens next week? They're down 3 pounds. They're down 5 pounds. What happened? Their fucking cortisol isn't so spiked because they're not white knuckling into the yoga class so they can rush in, lay in fucking shavasana, and then leave before the class ends because they have to go to another meeting. It's like, well, why did we even do that? That's like an oxymoron. It's like against what your intention was. And so when I remove and give them spaciousness, it's a relief, and I can let their nervous system settle and go, oh my gosh, I don't have to be so in fight or flight. I don't have to be so, I can actually do less and yield a greater result. This is the reset of the paradigm shift versus adding more. And then when she sees that and she has more spaciousness, it gives her the availability and the mental fucking bandwidth to be like, what would be fun for me? What does sound fun? And to me, I just look at it slightly different, but I only can use it from my own life. If someone took something off my plate, oh my God, what a relief.
Yeah, it is a huge paradigm shift. And like I relate to that because I think one of the biggest transformations I've ever gone through in my life was when I stopped exercising and eating more out of self-hatred than self-love. And I feel like people don't talk about that enough. And it's one of the things
Great
that
topic.
I love in your content is that you kind of call that out, like how common it is for women to exercise more out of self-hatred than it is out of self-love. And that what you talk about like really scaling people back, I think for most high achieving women is probably incredibly uncomfortable. I know it's
100%.
when I started working with the trainer I have now, he was the first trainer ever that I felt like was really peeling back the layers with me. And one of the first things he did was scale back the amount of time I was spending in the gym. And I will never, ever forget the time I texted him because I'm looking at the workout and I honestly thought that part of it had to be missing. Like I was like, hey, I think like a bunch of things must not have transferred over. And he looked at it and he's like, no, that's it. That's all in the workout for today. And I was like, what else do I do then? And he was like, live your life.
Yeah.
It was so jolting.
Yeah. Yeah. To think that I don't have to do more to yield more of a result. It's just, again, the mindfulness because we're working against biology. Like, again, white knuckling. I'm so stressed to get to the gym. And then I'm stressed to come home and get my kids to school. And I'm stressed because I'm short on time. And it's like, oh my God, this is the first 2 hours of your fucking day. I get why you're exhausted by 5 p.m. Look at your first 2 hours, and then it's to let them come together, mind and body. This is the alignment of like, my mind is not a fucking master of my body. My body is not a slave to my mind. My mind is in service to my body. You work for fucking my body. We look for all the ways that she needs to feel good, that she can, is she stressed out? Is she exhausted? Is she tired? Why is she bloated? Why does she have gas? What made her feel we have a little bit more pest in our step. Where are we in our cycle? Like all this bullshit I never thought about before because I was 20 and on birth control and thought I could will my way to anything. And I did. I was like, I can't, there's no other way because I yielded the result I wanted by force versus what would be available to me by flow. And I was like, but what if that was possible? Let me just try it on. And in the season where I found it, it was like I didn't know what to do. So I was just open and available to trying anything. And same, I work with a personal trainer too. And I was like, hey, do you think I just fucking did it last month? I was like, oh my God, you have 2 openings. I was like, can we go from 3 weeks to 5 or 3 days a week to 5 days a week? And he's like, no, we can't. This is designed for you not to do that. So you don't have to do more. because it's actually essential for recovery. And he's like, you will get better results if you don't come in 5 days a week. And I was like, damn, I fell into my own trap of things I even coach people on, but I feel like we teach the things that we're here to learn the most. So it's like, you're right. I get to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Don't even know.
Yeah. Do you find that when it comes to scaling back, like people get really uncomfortable with that of like I feel like especially with entrepreneurial women, high achieving women, a lot of us have this perception that like we need to always have 5 things on the go. Otherwise we're not doing enough. So if you have somebody that comes in and says like, hey, we're going to scale this back, you're going to go to the gym less. We're going to give you more breathing room in your life. Do you find that the tendency then is to try to like fill that with something else?
I think the inertial thing I get is kickback. It's not going to work. Very resistant. They don't believe it. And then I always ask the question. I said, okay, just play with me for a second. Let's pretend, hypothetically, I promised if you do this and you actually played full in and you actually really believed and allowed yourself to fully commit to only working out 2 days a week, walking the rest of the days, hitting a minimum of 7,500 to 10,000 steps on the days that you're not working out and on the days that you're working out too, that without a shadow of a doubt, you would lose 5 pounds. What would that feel like for you? And you literally watch it go, oh my God, it feels so good. I said, look, you just lost 5 pounds of energetic weight. And now your body's going to follow because we've just trained ourselves to do. And I was like, I'm right. And I think once I can actually get them embodied, when they take that one thing out, my experience has been when I can viscerally get them to feel, if it was true, what that would feel like, they're like in gratitude for the spaciousness and they don't fill it, has been my experience with at least the women I've worked with, that it becomes enjoyable. She's like, oh my God, I looked forward to my walk today. I was like, when was the last time you looked forward to walk? She's like, I don't know because I'm always just so stressed about fitting it in. But she wasn't up so early, so she should have to rush to walk the dog and then get out when the fucking sun woke up and then get her kids. It wasn't so rushed. And so she's like, I looked forward to it. I was excited. And I was like, think of that, what that's chemically doing inside of your body, just how you're feeling. And then just think about how we can let our cortisol levels drop and our nervous system regulate what that's then going to do for your weight. Sometimes it's lifestyle, not necessarily nutrition, because you're probably doing everything because you're type A, doing everything perfect. Now, could you do everything with spaciousness and ease and allow yourself to feel worthy there is another way, that it can be easy? Let this be easy.
Oh, that's powerful. Let that be easy. You said something there that reminded me of kind of a shift that happened for me because I had an eating disorder for years. Like I said, I spent years dieting and exercising more out of like trying to make myself look the way I felt like I wanted to look. And I felt like the shift really happened for me when I started seeing my mind and my body as being on the same team as opposed to being on different teams. And when I started focusing on what I could do in the gym instead of what I looked like in the gym. And like those two shifts alone completely transformed everything for me. And then finally after that, I started seeing the physical results that I wanted to see. So I think that's a really simple way that I think people could look at it is like, do you feel like your mind and your body are on the same team right now? Or do you feel like they're competing against each other?
Yeah. Yeah. For a long time, I had a coach who had said to me once, she goes, you can't be the villain and the hero in the story. Meaning that you're so fucking pissed at what you didn't do, what you should have done, why your body doesn't look this way. Like you're so fucking annoyed with yourself. So your body's the villain, past you is the villain. Versus, could she be the hero? The one that said, I really want to make a change. Let's try something different. Let's hire a coach. Let's do something in a different way. And I was like, okay. She's like, you can't be the villain and the hero. Okay, so if I'm the hero in the story, I have to have so much compassion for my journey, the hero's fucking journey that led me here. Then I had such bravery and compassion to make a different choice that I'm willing to pivot and change, that I'm actually the hero in the whole story. Regardless of what I looked like, felt like, achieving, not achieving, I was the hero the whole way because I was the hero in the journey that was, how did Superman get his superpowers? How did Batman get his superpowers? It's the journey that he went through, the tragedy and the triumph. And I don't necessarily knew where I was in the journey, what is happening, And once I started reframing that, right, that was when my body stopped being a slave to my mind and my mind became a servant to my body. And just the whole thing changed because I just no longer look at her with such objection. Now I just look at her with such compassion and joy. And I'm very mindful. And I just have, again, I'm not self absorbed. It's just like, I just was so out of alignment. I was so disassociated, mind and body. And I didn't even know it because I'm fucking in fitness and nutrition and da 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 da. Like I should be in tune, but I never was embodied.
It makes me think of something that I saw in your content that like there's almost this fear of coming across as full of ourselves. Like we don't want to do things in a self-absorbed way. We don't want to be perceived as being full of ourselves. I remember growing up and that was like an insult that people would say is like, "Oh, she's so full of herself." And I think about it now and I'm like, it's crazy to me that we try to shame that because who the fuck else am I supposed to be full of? And like I am the main character of my story. If I'm not rooting for me, then I can't ever expect anybody else to. And I remember seeing this post once. It always stuck with me. It said, you know, you've tried to get where you're trying to get through hating yourself, and it hasn't worked. So what if you tried loving yourself and see what happens?
Trying to get where you get with hating yourself. So what if you try to get where you want to go through loving yourself? Wow, that one's good. That one's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think it just goes back to like it's my birthright to feel love and joy, and it's my birthright to be in my own body and feel joy, to be in joy. No, yeah, I love being in joy and everything. I'm not too late. It's not going to miss me, and I'm right on the path if I'm doing my part every day, doing my fucking best, right? And I'm not going to get it right all the time. And when I don't, like yesterday, I think it was the day before my period, and cried 3 times, and I was just like, "Oh, and this," and my husband's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Dang, I just sometimes when you're in your purpose, sometimes you're just so I love what I do so much that it's just I always wanna do my best, and sometimes when I don't do my best, I just get to have a I can't hit a PR every day." And
Hmm.
he's like, "Wow, I've never heard you talk about yourself like this." And I was like, "It's just I'm unwilling to kind of ridicule myself in any way because I've seen where that led and it was just unwilling. I'm unwilling to go there."
Hmm. Have you and your husband been together through all of the like building the 70 locations and then making this big shift in your business? So he's probably seen firsthand that big shift in you, probably more than anybody else.
So he came in while I was in the big come up of my first, I call it the first mountain. First
Hmm.
mountain was a lot of ego, a lot of external validation, a lot
Hmm.
of on paper, doing all the things. And he came in during that. And he was kind of the first part of the pivot because I really wanted to have kids, or I was really ready to have kids. I'll say that. I was really ready to have kids. And he said, "Well, I don't think we can have kids right now." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Because there's no way you could work like you work, do what you do, and carry a baby." He's like, "You'll die." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Do you know who I am? Like, do you know what I can do?" And I kind of laughed and then I got pissed at him. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me what I can and cannot do and what you think I can and cannot do? I kind of was a little cocky about it. And then there was a part of me that I was like, he's right. Like, I don't think for the sake of my health, the way that I was going, that I could actually sustain the pace and intensity that I worked and actually have a baby and do all that at once. So I really started to shift my career and I was ready to be in this new season. And so then that's when the identity shifted from, okay, building a business to building a family. And then that really kind of came of the unfolding of, then I didn't really know who I was. And then I had a second kid, and then I really didn't know who I was. And then my friends were going and building businesses and careers. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do in this. I felt lost in the sauce. And my husband was building, it was just like, what? And then I felt on work. It was a whole thing. And watched the come up, he watched the come down, he watched the unraveling. But he will say, and he said it to me about last week, he said, "But the one thing you never stop doing, you were so committed to finding it. And you never really knew what it was." And what I was searching for was being in joy. And I was constantly searching, okay, it's got to be another course. It's got to be another program. Okay, it's got to be in God. It's got to be in Jesus. It's got to be in my body. It's got to be in the way that I look. I mean, I went through it. And it just kind of was always everybody, people always ask, like, so what are you up to? And I'm like, I'm in the arena. I don't really know. I'm in the arena figuring it out. Then I would hear my husband say, he's like, so what's Blair doing? And he's like, she's in the arena. And that was really my phrase that I'm like, I'm figuring it out until it all kind of, again, it all kind of merged together. And then I found it.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like the kind of not knowing who you are stemmed from just being so busy being a mom of two kids? Like, do you think that's where the identity loss happens for a lot of women?
I think my identity was paired with so much external. My identity was in the beginning a high achiever because if I did well, my parents would love me. If I was the star athlete, I would get attention. If I got a scholarship, my parents would be proud of me. And so everything was dependent on what I achieved, what I accomplished, and what I did, which is a blessing and a curse because it was a blessing because it just fueled the drive. And it was a curse because the power was outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I married my husband and I was really tired and then I got pregnant and I said, if I never made another dollar, would you still love me? And he said, I'd love you more. And I didn't really get that because he's like, I didn't marry you for how much money you make. I didn't marry you for what you've achieved in this world. I married you because I love you. And it was the first person that I felt like, other than my sister, that was like, I just love you because I love you. And that's our saying in our house to our kids. I go, why does mom love you? And she goes, because she loves me. And so why do you love mommy? And she goes, because I love you. I don't need a reason to love you. I don't need to be worthy of love. And my kids don't. And that's that is our foundation. And so Garen was a big part of that. But if I wasn't achieving, who am I? If I'm not creating or building or doing, who am I? And I didn't know who that was. And now it's just like, I'm Blair. It is my birthright to be happy. It is my birthright to be in joy, and I get to build that and exude that in any way I want to express it because it brings me joy, right? That I get to, and however that is a ripple out in the world is just a result of the overflow of who I get to be every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really proud of that representation and what comes from who I'm being. And that's the vibration, that I tap into every day of like, that's what I get to be. And I get to be that example for others, but it's really just check and balance to myself. That's what I really work towards that. It's really easy to not be any out of the vibration, to be unhealthy, to be unhappy, because that's easy. It doesn't take any mental bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
When it's unchecked, it's kind of, you need no effort. And to me, it's intentional. It's intentionality every day to work at this. And I'm so committed to that. Like I said, once I found it, I'm like, I'm never, ever going to leave you again. I lost you. I'm fucking found you. I'm never leaving you again. And I will work intentionally every day to love you. And so that's my core commitment. And then it's fun to be the example because I choose to, more so for anything, just to be a permission slip to hand out or a lighthouse to light up another lighthouse to bring these ships back home. And all we're doing is bringing the ships back home to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. All I want to do is to be a representation of you are so worthy to radically be authentically yourself, whatever that looks, feels like, and however that's expressed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's all it is. If you spot it, you got it. What is she doing? Why am I attracted to her? She's living or being or doing is something that lives within me. And I'm trying to figure out how to excavate that in my version of that.
Mm-hmm.
People are attracted to the brand of Blair, not because of what I do for who I am, because I'm only striking whatever is within them that they are wanting to elevate. And I'm just a mirror for them to come back home to themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's inside of you, right? But for so long, I put it outside of myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you could kind of take me back to you have two young kids, you feel like you don't really know who you are anymore. What changes did you make to start reconnecting with your joy and finding what you wanted to evolve into?
Yeah. So my husband and I we were in a coaching session with a couples coach, and we were talking about our sex life. And the coach had said, well, Blair, what turns you on? And I was like, I don't really know. And she's like, well, how do you expect your husband to turn you on or like be intimate with you if you don't even know what turns you on or pleasures you? And I was like, I don't know, but he should figure that out. Then she goes, well, you get to figure that out. And I didn't even know where to start. And so I was in the sauna the next day listening. I think I was listening to Tony Robbins and I was like, oh my God, it's so fucking hot in here. This is so annoying. Like I was so mentally burnt. It was like 5 in the morning. And I would always listen to audiobooks in the sauna and I would always listen or a podcast. And I was just like, oh my God. And I get out of there and I'm like, I don't even know what I just listened to. And so finally I just turned it and I turned it to Fall Out Boy. And it was sugar, we're going down, down, and sugar. And I'm like, oh my God, this is music to my soul. And I start singing it and I start singing it and then I start screaming it and then I'm fucking raging at 5 in the morning. And then I turn on like Sum 41 and then I fucking turn on like Ja Rule, like all these just old shitty songs. And I was just and I got out and I walk upstairs and I'm like, hey baby. And I'm talking to him and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fucking great. And I loved it so much that I went and did it again the next day. And the next day I was listening to like Rihanna and I was like so intimate in the sauna. And then I would I'd strip for myself out of my swimsuit in the sauna. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm amazing. Oh, this is I'm alive. And then every day I would go in that sauna secretively and I would listen to these playlists. And then I would start curating these playlists. Like I couldn't wait to get in the sauna and I would dance and you could see the reflection of myself. And I'm like, I felt like I was 10 making these. Do you ever like dance to make dances up in your full length mirror that wasn't even a full length mirror? That's what I was doing. I was like, so that here I'm doing inner child, don't know it. Here I'm tapping into joy, don't know it. Here I'm embodying, don't know it. But all I'm doing is this is bringing me joy. And that became everything that was kind of my North Star. And so then I would go walking and I'm like, dang, it's 3 o'clock. I can't wait to get in the sauna tomorrow. And so I would go walking and then I was like, what are other things I can do that would spark that joy? And I walked past this lady who was walking and she waved to me. And I was like, hey. And I was like, whoa. So then I just started waving to everybody and I waved to the cars. And then I just made it a practice to wave to everybody because I was trying to excavate or like excavate or like spark that joy. Like I didn't really fucking know. I go to the grocery store and I saw this girl. She looks so cute. I'm like, God, you look so fucking cute today. I love your hair. She's like, I've been having the worst day. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I was like, you're so welcome. And so then I would just comment strangers, stop them in the middle of the fucking airport. Like, you look so fucking good. Like, you should tell your wife how much she looks. And she's like, and I would just see people fucking light up. So then I didn't know if I was giving or receiving. Am I doing it for them or am I doing it for me? And then I was like, this is the law of reciprocity. I don't know if I'm giving or receiving. And it just kind of started snowballing all from like, I just want to feel good. And what are things I can do that feel good? And now I'm out in the world feeling good, being good. And it just kind of starts fanning the flame, sparking the fire.
Mhm.
That now this is kind of a new homeostasis, that this is how I want to feel all the time. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so it's like, I don't know what that is for other people, but I just kept searching. And so now if my mind is in service to my body, now all my doing, teaching my brain to find fun things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been to Nashville. I want to go to Nashville and wear fucking sexy clothes and not be a mom and not be Blair who does macros. I want to go be a girl and listen to live music and have the fucking time of my life. So that's what I did. I went with 4 girlfriends. We all made fake names. My name was Millie. My other friend was and we just went and fucking danced and had a good time and played. And I was like, oh my God, well, I can't go to Nashville every weekend. And I was like, so how can I do that here? So every morning, what do? We turn on the playlist of the whole family. We play music every morning. My husband and I dance. We play, we sing, and everybody's in. And so then now it's like, oh my gosh, I am the algorithm of my house. I am the frequency I am now the vibrational tuning fork to everywhere I fucking go because I chose to be that. And now the whole world gets it. And now I'm the ripple effect, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. It absolutely does make sense. And then it sounds like you kind of rediscovered that for yourself, and then that translated into the content that you put out, and that probably helped with a lot of the shift of your business in general.
That then was the birthing place of it because I every day got to be the example of what that's like when you live it, when you fuel it, when you be it, and you have all these things right. Because I knew my labs and I knew my hormones and I was taking care of the root and then I was doing my nutrition and then I was in the energetics. So it was like from the bottom up. And I just kept going and like, how high can this thing, how good can I feel? And I'm always calibrating from the bottom up, from the inside to the outside. It's the whole thing. It's not, macros are a piece, the hormones are a piece, energy is a piece to all of me. And that is what I wanted to calibrate, not just one part of it, because I had lived just one fraction of my life for so long that I was like, how do I be all of me? How do I put this whole thing together?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, it seems like the the impression that I get from looking at a lot of your content and talking to you now is that, like, I know you have kind of a three-step process that you take your clients through in your program. There's, like you said, hormone clarity, metabolic reactivation, and macro calibration. But and correct me if I'm wrong here, it sounds like that's almost the work at a more like surface level. But I noticed in your content and in talking to you now, you talk a lot about like the deeper identity work. So
For
do you
sure.
find that it's like you start with kind of those physiological changes and the identity work comes as a result of that? Or do you find it starts with the identity work and then those three steps are the kind of tools?
I think it starts with the foundation because if it you come in and someone's telling me they don't feel like themselves, and 10 out of 10 times their their blood or hormone panels off every time, every time. What's happening at a physiological root, a bio individual blueprint of you? What is off? Because mine was off. My hormones were off. And so I didn't feel good. So I had no energy. I had no libido. My libido was non existent because I had low testosterone. My progesterone was so low. So all of these things, my cycle was all messed up. So how could I play or feel joyful and fucking say these affirmations and be and go play if it's so against a physiological cellular misalignment of what's actually happening on a biological level. So if I get there and I actually figure out what's happening at the root, and then we can reset some of these things. We can reset your hormones. We can reset your nutrition and your food so you're less bloated, you're less inflamed, you're less, what's the word? When people binge and then when they come off and they fall. How do we create some type of consistency, control, empowerment through your day to day? Food is so much a part of somebody's fucking day, regardless of your day, right? And so if I can start to get there, then we go into the third phase of embodiment. We have 2 community calls a month. We go over lymphatic drainage. You are touching yourself. You teach yourself we go through mindset. My husband comes in and does inner child. We do meditation, we do breath work, and we get into the embodiment because I want someone if you know what's happening at the root and then you reset all of the internal terrain and you start feeling better, the likelihood of you being open to concepts like going and playing and doing things, trying some of these tools exponentially opens up because you go, if I feel so good, how good can I feel? This thing, there's levels to this thing. But if I start with identity, but I'm working against a biological internal operating system, I don't know if it's going to work. That's where I was like, I can't positive mindset your way into fucking something that's chemically off. So I'm like, if I go all the way to the root and work from the bottom up, from the inside out, right? Everything's going to catch up. And so I have a lot of women that feel so good on the inside. They're like, I fucking feel amazing. But then I look at a picture of myself and you're like, that is the outside of this beautiful soul, right? So, okay, great. Well, let's figure out what's happening internally. And then you have people who don't like what they look like on the outside. They don't know who they are on the inside. And so I'm taking all of these pieces of the puzzle to bring them together back home to themselves. And then we work through some of these things. So then when she becomes at the end of the program in 5, 6 months, when she's a physical representation of the behaviors that she changed along the way of who she became. Oh my God, I did hard things. I finally completed something. I didn't have to fall off the bandwagon. I was the most vulnerable I've ever been. I was so honest with myself. I peeled back the layers. And then I was like, there's a reclamation of a birthing. And then that flower unfolds, right? And then
Mhm.
we're in a community where I'm dropping playlists and ideas and I'm talking to them. And so just by again, osmosis and proximity of someone who's embodying it, they're just like, got some Blair swag today. Borrow this shit for as long as you need. Take that energy, take that sass, take that playlist for them to try it on until they can figure out what their expression is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think there's so much power in proximity, in like being around women that you can see have again like after kids like found their zest, they feel like they're thriving because I've heard so many women almost like blame their physical insecurities on having kids. Like I
Mhm.
can't even count the amount of warnings I've gotten in my life of like just wait till you have kids, your body will never be the same. And it's very disheartening. So I think being in a community where you see that people are proving themselves wrong on that front, that doesn't have to be the case, that doesn't have to be the story you tell yourself, would already make a really big difference for people. But I'm curious to hear what you have found to be true about fitness after having kids.
I have never been in better shape in my whole life at 37. There are points in my life that I was like way stronger. Like I did CrossFit for so long and I was like, but then I'm like at 37, I'm like, I just it's unnecessary to lift that amount of weight. Like I don't need to do that. And I was lifting that much weight because I actually really wanted to look physically a certain way. And so I'm like, if I can look that way and I don't have to do that, like I'm good. I don't do that. I don't need to do a high rocks competition. I'm good. Now, some people, that's their goal. Now, okay, great. Well, what do we need to do to create the internal terrain to get you in the best possible shape, place physically, so you can do that? Again, who you want to become. We have a woman inside of our program. She's 60. Her name is Terry, and she wants to run a half marathon. She's never ran one before. And it's like, great. We are in some serious work to support her running a half marathon, right? And that is, who does that woman get to become when she crosses that fucking finish line? Well, she had to do some serious work and change a lot of behaviors. Look at what was happening at the root for her to physically be able to do that and mentally see it all the way through to the finish line physically, and then literally physically again for her, for her to be able to complete the race.
Mhm.
That's commitment to herself. That's integrity. That's showing up when she doesn't want to. That's doing the right thing when nobody's watching, like fucking food logging and watching your food and showing up to the gym. It's so many character building assets and traits. It's not, again, your body is a physical representation of all of the choices that you've made. That's all that it is. And to me, who you become in the process is way fucking cooler than what you look like, right? If I had abs or not, like I love that I did whatever it took to be myself, whatever it took to be in alignment. And abs or not, abs are just a cool byproduct. The end goal was the abs wasn't the happiness. It was that I was willing to go to the depths of my fucking soul, to die to my former self, and to fucking shed every identity in order to be like, I really don't know the answer, but I'm willing to find it. I love myself that much. And I don't, do you? And I don't know what that is, right? That's the journey that we go on together in the program because everybody's is different. Finding your spark in my world, I- it's completely your definition because I don't know what that zest for life means for you. And a lot of people will say, I just miss the girl that used to be fill in the blank. And that's their zest. I miss the girl that used to look like that was so confident, that was so happy, enjoy, blah, 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 and was confident in wearing a red dress and wasn't insecure about wearing. Or I've never been the girl that's been confident in a swimsuit. I want to be her. So again, finding your spark could be so many things, what you used to be, but how can we be that in the season? Something you've never been, but you fucking internally knows that she lives there.
Mhm.
It's like, let's go get it, baby. Let's go do the work. And the work is many, physical all the way to, in my opinion, the metaphysical.
And I've noticed like a lot of the work or it seems like a lot of the work that you do and you kind of help people with, and you talk about this a lot in your content, is being very intentional with the way you talk to yourself and the words that you use. I've watched a couple of your videos where you were either kind of teaching your kids different terms, or you talked about like words that you guys don't use in your house, like I can't, or you never, or that's so expensive. So do you find that that's something you work on with a lot of your clients, is kind of almost like auditing the types of words they use when they talk about themselves?
For sure. I mean, for someone to go through a physical transformation is going to have to, in my opinion, require a mental recalibration because it's all a reframe. For example, I have a woman that she's like, I had the fucking best week. I feel so lean. I feel incredible. I just, I did things in service to my body. And she's like, I put on my swimsuit today to do my progress photos. I took my progress photos. I feel so fucking good. And she goes, and then I stood on the scale and I was the exact same weight. And I'm having the worst time. And I'm having a really fucking ruined everything. And I said, do you hear this? And she goes, it's crazy. She's like, that I could be in this such joy. And I stand on a scale, and then that determines my whole worth. And the whole conversation is the scale is a number doesn't define who you are. Number doesn't define how you feel. You're allowing it. So now we go do the work of what the association is. And now we have to go reprogram of what we make things mean, right? And so it's like the again, if we're just attached to a physical number, you can will yourself to do anything. But I don't want you to be the same person at the end of it that you were before. That's why I have a hard time with some peptides, is because if you just give someone a GLP-1 and they lose 50 pounds and they had to do no work then inject themselves, they're going to have the same insecurities and problems because they didn't have to meet themselves. They didn't have to meet a lot of the fears. They didn't have to meet hard days. They didn't have to meet plateaus and who they became to overcome that, to fall off the fucking bandwagon. And so it's not that I don't believe in them. I 100% believe in them in the right foundation, because don't rob yourself of the transformation in the process. Don't let the facade of a body be, you think that all of a sudden, just because I have $1 million, now I'm happy. Just because I have a six pack, now I'm worthy. Is that true? I don't know. But data says that it's necessarily not. That's why so many people, after they have gastric bypass surgery, gain the weight back. They didn't change the habits. They didn't change their mindset. They didn't have the right foundational support, the mental support, right? Why is that? Because we're not going to the root mentally and also biologically. And so I was like, if we're going to do the work, let's fucking do it. And let's do it for the last time.
Yeah. And it's wild how like we all kind of grow up with these stories that a lot of times we adopted from either parents or just people that we grew up being surrounded by. And it can take years and years and years to really like unravel those stories and start observing them and kind of catching ourselves believing them, even though it's not what we want to believe. So I'm curious for you, is there something that you felt like you grew up believing that you know you would never pass on to your kids?
Yeah. I joke with my parents all the time because we would drive by houses, and my dad we're from a very small town, 3,000 people, northern Minnesota. I grew up on a farm, and we would drive past a certain area of town, and he said, that's Snob Hill. And I said, what's Snob Hill? It's where the rich people lived, according to my dad. And one day he came to our house, and it was our new house, and our house is very well. We did well. And I said, Dad, guess what? He said, what? And I said, I'm one of the people that live on Snob Hill. And he goes, that's not what I meant. And I said, but it really was. And he said, well, I grew up, and every summer I would go to my uncle's and work on a farm. And we would always have to drive past a tractor of all the rich people's houses. And we would all go, must be nice. Must be nice. Those kids don't have to work. They're outside playing, and we're on the fucking farm working. So him and his mind created a stigma about all these rich kids that didn't have to work in the summer. He created this and then passed it to me, right? Or that, that if you don't have insurance or a 401k with your job, like you didn't make it. Go work at the bank, Blair. They have an insurance plan. Give a retirement. What are you going to do being an entrepreneur? They're like, this is not a good job. So everything, and for whatever reason, I just never believed it. And so the programming, I think, that I really got from my parents, that was the unwinding, was if I did well, then I was worthy of love. I got their attention. I got their approval. And so I was always seeking ways in which, but I just equated success to equaling love, that
Mhm.
achievement equaled love. And that was a lot of the unprogramming for me. And so I think the best lesson that I ever learned was when my parents came the first time they ever saw our house. They were just about to leave. And I had asked my mom, like, are you proud of me? And she got upset. And she said, why would you have to ask that? And she stormed out of the house. And I started crying. And she was outside pissed because she's like, it's so frustrating. And that why do you should just know that. You shouldn't have to ask me. Like, very upset and annoyed that I would even ask her if she's proud of me. Like I offended her, and she never told me she was proud of me. And in years of therapy, now it's the best thing that she ever did that day, because I was never proud of myself until she was proud of me. Then I could be proud of me. Versus, did I do good? Am I proud of me? How did I think? And it's the greatest gift. She's a perfect mom for me. Yes. I needed that more than anything, because there was no level of achievement or success that I was ever going to get to that was going to be worth her approval, right? I just would have gone to the end of time killing myself in creating, and her never giving me the thing that I wanted the most. The best lesson, because I should and can be the only person that gets to give that to me, if that makes sense. So that was the reprogramming that they really, I think, that I got to go through.
So how do you navigate that as a mother, somebody that doesn't want to teach your kids this lesson that achievement equals value, achievement equals love? How do you balance that with, I imagine, probably also wanting your kids to try for things and to find something that's worth pursuing?
Yeah. Well, I'm figuring that one out. I'm doing my best. I mean, um, we have a family mantra that we say every day. I'm kind, we're a kind, resilient family. So we have a family mantra that we say. We often say things. We try not to tell our kids always only physical attributes about themselves, like, you're so beautiful. I just say, when I watch her doing things that were, hey, buddy, I noticed how kind you were to your brother today. And that was so amazing. That's so amazing. So I try to edify characteristics, ways of being. We say things like, I love you because I love you. You know, Mom, oh, I love that you did that. We don't say things like that. I try to say, like, are you proud of yourself for doing that? And you didn't have to even be asked. She's like, I'm so proud of myself, Mom. And so I try to find ways for her to be proud of herself. And so I just kind of try to provoke that. Like today, she came upstairs and she's like, Mom, I put my her pull-ups. I put my pull-ups in the pull-up bin, and I brushed my teeth, and I said my affirmations, and I made my bed. And I said, who told you to do that? She said, no one. I just knew that we were going to come downstairs and you were going to do that with me. So I just did it. I was like, buddy, that's so, are you proud of yourself? And she's like, yeah, I'm so proud of myself, Mom. Can I have a popsicle? You know, sure, buddy. But a
So,
popsicle doesn't, you're not getting the popsicle because you did those things. You get the popsicle because I wanted to give it to you. And she's like, okay. So I try not to associate doing with receiving, right? That I get this because I get, and so it's hard, because always tell the other day, I'm like, I'm trying to bribe her with a toy. Like if she fucking gets in the car, like she'll bribe her with it. And Garen goes, let's not bribe, let's incentivize. And I was like, that is so good. Yes, let's incentivize. And I was like, what a good reframe. And I was like, so I think we're catching each other in real time too, of like, right? I'm like, okay. I was like, that was a good one. Incentivize. I think we just try to find ways to use just higher resonating words. And we're not always perfect, but we do try. And we're very, very mindful. You can't change without awareness. And all we can be is be aware, and to do our best. And I always joke, I'm like, she's going to hate us for this for like a solid 5 years. And then I think in like 20 years, she's going to thank us. And he's like, I think so too. So I think there's a point in time I just get to remember she may not just be like, oh, my fucking parents, they're the best. They're so mindful with their words and optimistic. And she's probably going to, maybe one day she might think it's annoying and stupid. And why can't we talk like everybody else? And why do we always have to ask for support instead of help? And why do we, and yeah. And I think I just get to be unattached to her association with it and just do my part and let her choose what she wants to make it mean. But just do my part, the best of my ability, just like all of our parents did.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't control the outcome, but you can control your intention with it.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense. Well, I know we're coming to the end here, and I want to be respectful of your time. I feel like I could ask you like 10 more questions, and I'm trying to watch the clock because I am in a little bit of disbelief of how fast this time has gone by. But the question that I always like to kind of wrap up with is, if you could give one piece of advice to people who feel like inspired idiots, they know that there's some kind of unrealistic goal or lifestyle that they want to achieve, and they don't really know what they're doing, but they're just figuring it out. What is the first thing that comes to your mind that you would pass on to those people?
I would just say everything you need is inside of you, and that every breadcrumb will lead you to the next breadcrumb. If it feels true for you, pick it up. And that sometimes being in the arena is just the best place to be because you're a lot more brave than all the people in the stands. And sometimes just giving yourself credit for being in the arena is the best thing that you can do uh, when things don't seem clear. Because if you're in the arena, you're always going to find it if you believe that you're going to find it, even if you can't see where it's leading you next.
Just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. Yep.
All right. Well, that's a good note to end on. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. But before we stop, I just wanted to say thanks again for giving me your time. This is awesome.
And thank you for the platform you've created.
Awesome. Cool. I'm going to hit stop.